Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to St. Norbert College on this beautiful spring morning. We thought we might have an ice palace, so I think we actually feel like we're off to a good start. So I think Mark must be good luck. I'm Tom Kunkel, the president of St. Norbert College, and I want to welcome you back to campus and to the CEO Breakfast and Strategy Series for 2016-17. The college, along with our sponsors, we are so pleased that you could join us again this morning. This is the 19th year that the CEO Series has been providing area executives with the opportunity to hear from some of our top and most innovative CEOs. This resource is being brought to you through the generosity of our presenting sponsor, WPS Health Insurance Arise Health Plan. The title sponsors are Whipley, Insight Publications, Johnson Bank, Johnson Insurance, and the sponsor of today's session, Davis Coulthau Attorneys at Law. Please take the folders at your place with you and take a little time to review the information when you get a moment. We would appreciate it, and I know our sponsors would as well. At this time, I'd like to call up my friend and colleague, Father Sal Cuccia, who is the campus minister emeritus, to say a word of grace. Sal?
Loving God, all things are of your making. Enrich our hearts with the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of knowledge and counsel. Help us to be open to new challenges and possibilities of using our gifts and talents for the service of others. Bless the food we are about to share. As we are nourished by it, may we be mindful of those who are in need. May it give us strength of mind and body, so that by word and example, we may do your work more effectively. We ask this in all things through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Sal. Enjoy your breakfast, everybody. We'll be back with Mark and his program in a little bit. But good morning again, everybody. Come to order, class. Come to order. Hate to have to put you on detention, but I will. Hope you enjoyed your breakfast. If you don't mind, would you join me in a little hand for our kitchen staff and our wait staff? They really do a terrific job, and we're so fortunate. I think a lot of you know I'm in my 9th year, and I'm finishing at St. Norbert when I'm finished with this spring semester, and it's been a privilege and a real treat. And it's at kind of the end of the race where people are asking you about, your accomplishments and things like that. And I think as I stand here today, I'm maybe 3 pounds heavier than when I was introduced. And if you know about the food at St. Norbert College and the meals and the number of meals that I eat in conjunction with events, that's a miracle. So that might be my single greatest accomplishment. We are real fortunate today. It's my great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mark Kaiser. Most of you know that Mark is the CEO of Lindquist Machine Corp., a custom machine builder located in Green Bay. And that doesn't really do Lindquist justice. I know, again, many of you, in part because Mark is so open about having people in to the operation, and I know they do a lot of tours. If you've not been out there, I would urge you to try and arrange to see it because it's quite remarkable. But in essence, Lindquist uses modern machines to manufacture modern machines. It is definitely not your grandfather's manufacturing. It's the high tech and the precision is incredible. And one of the things that, Mark has been, really an outspoken advocate of a 24th century workforce that is trained up and educated to be able to handle the challenge of 21st century manufacturing. Mark has served as CEO of Lindquist since 1999. Previously, he was vice president of contract manufacturing at our friends at the Aaron's Company, and he was vice president for sales and marketing at Pioneer Metal Finishing, and market development manager for PP&G Industries in Greensboro, North Carolina. Mark got his MBA and also a BS in chemical engineering at UW-Madison, and I know you know he is very, very involved in the greater Green Bay community. He is vice chair of the executive team for Achieve Brown County. He serves on the boards of Partners in Ed, the Greater Green Bay Chamber, the Wisconsin Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and First Business Bank. He is also an elder at Jacob's Well Church. He's been somebody that I've been privileged to know most of my time here, and delighted that he could be with us this morning. Please welcome Mark Kaiser. Mark?
Thank you, Tom, for those kind words. When you list all those companies, it's hard to believe that I've been around that long, but I have. Well, I'm really excited to share with you what we're doing as far as our intentional culture development and leadership development at Lindquist Machine Corporation. It is pretty exciting, and we've put a lot of time and effort into it. But I think first I just need to lay some context to this so you can understand why we're doing what we're doing, and so it'll make some sense. So I just want to talk a little bit about Lindquist. We are a custom machine builder. We are truly a manufacturing company. We machine parts, fabricate parts, paint, assemble, do some machine design now, and we don't have a product line. So we're a manufacturing services provider, and at the end of the project, our customer generally owns the intellectual property. We have one facility that's here in Green Bay. It's about 130,000 square feet. We're between 15 and 20 million in sales, and we hope to grow that significantly. And currently we have about closer to 90 employees. So that kind of lays a little context. And these are what we call our market delivery systems, and this is what really drove us to start to work on our culture. I got to make sure this works. This right here is the one segment that's probably our largest, is where we do what we call OEM overflow work. So a large OEM that markets machinery, they're going to give us their overflow work. We're going to build those machines for them, or we're going to make parts for them. And that's great work, but it's very competitive. The margins are generally a little bit lower, and it's very cyclical in nature. So as those OEMs are busy in the capital equipment business is great. But when we have down markets like we have for the last couple of years in capital equipment, it's few and far between, and the margins just drop like a rock because everybody's just trying to get work to keep people busy. That middle section is where we're building custom equipment, but we're doing it for a third party, with a third-party engineering company, or maybe an OEM will do their own design, and we'll build it. They'll contract us to do the turnkey machine building, and that's a great market. The margins there are better. We add more value in those circumstances to our customers, but it's a pretty small market. There just aren't that many customers out there that do that, so your growth potential there is somewhat limited. The third market delivery segment is right here, and this is where we're actually providing a custom machine design and build service. Now this one comes with more risk, because generally when you're taking on those projects, you're taking on some process risk, and if that machine doesn't work, it's on your nickel to make it work. But the margins are much higher, but the more important thing is that there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of growth potential in that market, especially in this country where there's such a drive to improve productivity and efficiency and lower labor costs. So overall, we felt in order to keep the company growing, we needed to move more toward that custom machine design market in order to continue to expand and grow and add some value to the market. But we weren't really sure how to do that, and there was a lot of risk involved with us taking that endeavor on. So before we moved to the design and build part, this was our strategic alignment. We were pretty good at this. We did some really good strategic planning. We had a good exterior view of the business, and we had some excellent strategic goals to try to achieve. But it was pretty one-dimensional. And so once we had decided to make this shift, to try to move the business more toward the machine design and build, I needed to do some help. I wanted to figure out how are we going to make this happen. And so the first thing we did is we needed to determine where we really wanted this business to be in 10 years. So I hired my most favorite cash extractor, I mean organizational development consultant, Lee Bushy. And Lee Lee walked us through an exercise that also Phil Houck had introduced me to in my tech group called developing your golden circle. But more importantly for us, it was to really determine that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal, and get everybody looking out and get them thinking about where do we need to be in 10 years. And it was a great exercise. We did several iterations of this. And overall, we came up with what I felt was an excellent goal for us, and it really coalesced our whole senior leadership group and our people around it. So once we had that created, then we started to do this intentional culture development and this leadership development. And so right now, we're on our phase 3. The first phase, which we call building a foundation, I'll talk about each of these real briefly in a minute. The second phase was developing this leadership presence, where we actually developed our intentional culture statement. And then this third phase was where we took that culture statement, tried to apply it, and this is where the whole idea of these crucial conversations came into being. So the first phase was coming up with the BHAG. It was taking a look at what other companies were doing outside of Lindquist for culture and culture development and leadership development. I really liked John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership for a couple reasons. I love the way that it measured the different levels, and we're a very technically driven company and a very measurement driven, and so that allowed us to take culture and put it into a measurable form, which was very attractive to us. So we rolled that out with our what I call our first line leadership group, and we went through a little process of educating them on those 5 levels. And we also developed our leadership principles, which is really critical. Not only what those principles were, but why they were important, and then what would it look like if we were really doing this, because we weren't. What would it really look like? What would our business look like if we were really leading the company in a consistent way and with a way that would be consistent with where we wanted to go from our BHAG perspective? We then entered phase 2, and this was to try to develop an intentional culture. And at first, when Lee's telling me about this, I'm going, we already have a culture. Why do we need to do this? It's a great culture. I like working here. So I was a little bit resistant to this, but through Lee and Phil, they were able to convince me that we really needed to define what our culture needed to be in order to reach our BHAG. Because we weren't going to make it with the culture we had. There's so much risk in that machine design build area, and we had not had a lot of experience with that. We were not very good at collaborating, particularly when the wheels come off a project, which they tend to do on a machine design and build project. You get a lot of problems when you're trying to put that machine together, and how you handle that interface, how you handle and how you collaborate when you're not doing well really is going to dictate how well you're going to do financially, but how happy your customer is going to be as well. So we needed to make this major cultural change in order to have a chance to be successful here. And so we started by first trying to figure out how are we going to actually define culture. So we took our first level leadership group. We had Lee do some training on what culture is, why it's important, things like that. And then we broke them into small teams, and we had them develop a culture statement. All right. Now, they did not want to do this. This was, in fact, we gave them about a 3-week period to do it. I don't think they started until 2 days before we were going to, at the end of the 3 weeks. But surprisingly, the culture statements that each group presented to us, and they presented to the whole group, were really very good. I was actually pleased with the result, much better than I expected to be. And then what we did is we took those 5 intentional culture statements, and then our senior leadership group melded them together, came up with what we thought was an overall culture statement that took some of the unique features of the 5 and put it together. And we had the 5 team leaders come in that were part of those original 5 teams, review our work. They gave us some pretty constructive feedback. They didn't like a whole lot of it. And then we finally got this thing where everybody could agree, and we rolled it out. And that's it. So that was the intentional culture statement that we developed. And there's the highlighted words. Those are what we call the 10 pillars. So those are the 10 pillars of our culture, and that's what we want to try to drive home. Now, it's easy to have 10 words, but the question is, what do those words mean? And so that was the next step, was to determine, all right, how are we going to define those? So what we did is we took each one of those 10 and we attached 3 or 4 behaviors that you would see in our business if we were in fact living the culture. And so we did that for all 10 of those. That took a while as well, because people have a different idea what things mean, particularly passion, trust. Very hard to define trust, by the way. Not an easy word to define, we found out as we went through our process. Now, because we're a technical company and we measure everything, we have to figure out how we're going to measure culture. And we had to create a foundation so we knew where we were, and then we could measure where we're going to go and if we're making some progress or not. So it was very simple. We took the 10 pillars. We asked all of our associates on a scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing? And we asked them for 2 ratings. Number 1 was, how are you doing individually in living those pillars? And secondly, how is the organization doing collectively in living those those pillars? And so this was our first run at that. We did a little analysis. I think probably the thing that jumped out the most, that I'm not surprised by, is by a significant amount, everybody felt that individually they were living the culture a lot better than everybody else. All right? So now you know where you have to start, right? You have to start. This is an individual thing. So that was pretty eye-opening for us. It was a positive thing. It gave us a place to start. And so now we're at this great spot where we have an intentional culture statement. We have leadership principles. We've measured ourselves, which we love to do, make sure that we're making some progress. But now, what are we going to do to try to apply those 10 pillars directly into the business? That was the hard one. All right. So that took us to a couple of different things. We took the 10 pillars and we actually put it into our what we call our 360 development plan. So each of our associates in the entire company, every year they get a development plan review. It's given by their leadership, but also they get to pick 2 individuals, peers, to be in there, and then they come to the review with their ratings, and then it's their job to convince everybody else that those ratings are good. So you have a very good dialogue. And we asked them to bring 2 people that maybe they're not doing too well with, that they might have a challenge relationship with, because we want it to be where they can learn things that are going to give them a chance to grow in their professional career. But we took the 10 pillars and we actually put it right into our review process. All right. So now they're being measured not just on their technical knowledge, but pretty heavily on their cultural behaviors. They didn't like that very much, by the way. We then also, so when we hire, when we attract talent, we measure that. We have a team of people that do that for each hire. And so we took the 10 pillars and we actually put it into our evaluation form as well. And we actually weighted this one the highest, and so you can actually get negative points if you don't perform well in your interview on our culture, all right? Which is the only one where you can go negative. And you can go up to a positive 18 points, and there's only a total of about 100 points. So that culture measurement is going to be very, very indicative of if you're going to fit in at Lindquist or not, or if you're even going to make the cut with us. So, got it integrated into the main measurement tools, got it set. Now the question becomes, what are we going to do to apply? And this is a very, very difficult question. So again, my favorite cash extractor suggested that, hey, Mark, you should take a look at this book called Crucial Conversations. And I did. And you know what? It was really good. It's an easy read. The concepts in this are not difficult, although I do think they're life-changing. And once I had a chance to read it, I was really, really confident that this is what we were going to use to try to apply the intentional culture principles into the business. Now, what we did to do that is broke down our first line leadership group into a couple teams. Lee did some training for us on the book. We did that in 3 segments. But each time that we completed a training course, they got an assignment. And the assignment was that they had to go out and actually apply what the principles and the concepts that the book was teaching us. And that was hard, and they didn't want to do that at all. And so they would come back then and report back at the next session how they did. Particularly at the beginning, it didn't go well. We had a lot of problems. People would start to have these crucial conversations, and they would blow up. They wouldn't be productive. But over a period of time, they actually really developed the skills to do this, and they got much better, much better. So to help them apply it, we took the principles and applied them into some of our basic models. So here's what we call our communication model. This is very critical for us. So we always want to make, when we have interactions and when we're talking business together, we always want to end that in a commitment. So we only want discussions to end with commitments being made back and forth. And then in a great world, in a perfect world, we'd all live up to our commitments. Life is grand, the business goes well, and we're good to go. However, given the nature of our business, it's sometimes very difficult to live up to your commitments because the business changes so quickly. The demand changes, people change. And so what would happen is when you realized you couldn't make your commitment, the natural thing we do as people is we just don't say anything. We're just going to ignore it, hope that it gets better. It never does, by the way, if you ever think that. It never gets better. And then this gets way worse here, because now people get angry. So what we want them to do is, once they realize that their commitment is in jeopardy, we want them to go back and have this discussion. And that right there is the crucial conversation. That's the hard part, because it's not natural, and because there's a lot of risk here in that conversation to the relationship. So in order to help them start to have that crucial conversation, we have what we call our engagement model. So the first thing was to make sure, and there's a lot of concepts in the book that I'm not going to be able to share. I'll give you a couple highlights, and how we applied it, but I really would recommend the book if you're so inclined. The first thing, they had to recognize when there was a crucial conversation. So conversations are crucial when the stakes are high, when emotions are strong, and when you have opposing opinions. So it's not every conversation in the business, but it's a lot of them. It really is. And when these conversations don't go well, who gets hurt? Usually our customers. I mean, yeah, you get hurt people inside, but usually our customers feel the brunt of that because we're not being innovative. We're not working to catch up on a project we're behind because we're mad at each other. And quite frankly, we're really hurting our customers here. So recognizing that you have a need for a crucial conversation, and then understanding what the options are. These are the options we want you to go. We either want you to forbear it, or we want you to engage. But what we don't want you to do is one of these. And the one that is predominant is what we call the fool's choice. And that's some neat trick out of the book. The fool's choice is where you need to have you should have a crucial conversation with somebody, but you've convinced yourself that you're either going to lose him as a friend, right, which we don't want to do, or if you tell the truth, you're going to lose him as a friend. So you can't get there. And this is where people generally go. If I confront this person, even if I do it in love and humility, I'm risking, if I tell them the truth, I'm going to lose them as a friend. And once you've reached that point, now there's no chance that you're going to have that conversation. But what the book teaches you is that's not really the way it works. You can have a crucial conversation, you can tell the truth, and you can even not only still maintain the relationship, you can make it stronger. And so that's what we had to practice. And so this took a lot of work to get them to agree to use this. Once they agreed that there was benefit to it and they practiced it, they got much better. It was a repetitive thing. At the beginning, they didn't do well with this. Thankfully, I've got my guys, Joe and Ernie here, our VPs, that took the brunt of that when the things blew up. They were the ones that had to sit down and have the follow-up conversation and do the teaching and the training. But we made good progress. And I'm happy to say today everybody understands our communication model and they understand our engagement model, and they're willing to now participate in it. Doesn't always go right. I mean, it's far from perfect, but now they're at least bought in and we're making some progress here. Now, the challenge was once we had the first group, the first tier leadership group, which is our salaried people and our shop floor team leaders, now we have to roll it out to the floor. We're a male-dominated business. I think out of the 85 or 90 employees, we have 3 women, which is embarrassing. But that's where we're at. I'd love to hire more women. So we've got this strong culture out on the shop floor, which isn't always that attractive, and we had to roll this out to them. And so I was very, very nervous about this because I was worried that they would really not move forward with it. So what we did is we broke up that first level leadership group into small teams. We then had them teach the concepts and practice it with the three of us. That took a couple sessions. The first session, they didn't know the material well enough, so they had to understand it better. The second session, their presentation skills were a little lacking, so it took us about 3 mock sessions to get each of those teams ready to go. And then we had those teams meet with a group of about 5 or 8 shop floor guys and roll out the concepts. And it was a little nerve-wracking, to say the least. But I was very surprised at how well it worked. I was most impressed with the level of dialogue that was occurring on the teams. I mean, they really were talking about the concepts. They were asking really good questions, and they were embracing it. We had a couple of anchor draggers that were refusing to read the book, and that kind of stuff. But you dealt with those in a one-on-one basis, and eventually you got them where they needed to be to go forward. So we went from having our people not understand how they were going to have these kinds of conversations and being afraid of having them, to actually now, in the vernacular at Lindquist, I guess I really have to have a crucial conversation with that person. And it gets to be a part of our culture and a part of who we are. And so that's been very, very exciting to watch that. It still takes a lot of time and effort to do it, but it's working. And so now we're into the latter part of our phase 3, which is now we did the first 3 sections, now we're doing sections 4 through 6, just kicked that off this week. And we should finish up phase 3 probably by about August or September. I think we'll be done with that. And then finally, what we've really done then, if you look at the whole body of work and what we've worked through, is we've been able now to integrate this. This is where we were prior to making that move to the machine design and build. Now we've been able to integrate the development of our culture, to establishing it and developing it, and then tying it to what the market tells us and what our customers tell us, and then still execute. And the thing I've noticed is that our execution, which I thought was pretty good prior to starting this, execution has improved a lot. And that's because the collaboration has improved a lot, and now they're working together in a really effective way. And so we've been much more successful initially on those machine design build projects. We struggled a little bit, didn't make good decisions, lost a bunch of money. For the last 6 months or so, we've done much, much better financially, and much happier. I mean, the guys are now much happier working together, and when they do have a problem, now it's, what are we going to do to fix this, and how are we going to help each other make this happen? And so that gives me a lot of confidence going forward, thinking, you know what, we're going to get this right, and we're going to be able to grow this business and meet our BHAG. So just the key learnings real quick. This is a huge commitment of time and effort and money, and it needs to start at the top, and it needs to be the whole senior leadership group that is engaged in this. And if they're not all engaged, trust me, they will find a way to figure that. The rest of the organization will find a way to figure that out, and they'll try to exploit that. They'll try to pull you apart. So we had some of those issues at the beginning. This is all about change, as I'm sure all of you know. It really does work, and probably one of the most rewarding experiences I had was after getting a good start on this. One of the guys came up to me, and we were talking about the intentional culture work and where we were at. And he said, you know, Mark, I had a crucial conversation with my wife last night. I was like, well, and I didn't know if I should ask this. So I said, well, how did it go? How did it go? It went really great. I mean, she still likes me. So these skills that we're teaching and that we're all learning together are not just going to benefit us in our businesses. These are skills that are going to improve our marriages. They're going to improve our relationships with our kids. And they're going to improve our relationships outside of our business in the community. So I really think that we're equipping them to make it, not just in their job, but in their life. And I think that's worth the time and effort to do that. This is it's very critical to have patience here. It doesn't go fast, especially at the beginning, and repetition is key to this. I think at the beginning they all felt this was going to be a fad, and it was probably one of those things Mark heard at his last tech meeting, so we'll just wait till this goes away, which has happened, by the way. It has happened. I understand that thinking. But once I think they figured out that we weren't going to let this go, and that we were going to be very, very steady on this. Once that went away, then I think they got much more engaged. But it was very important for the three of us to be on the same page, but also to be very repetitive about this. This was an everyday thing. It was not a once-a-month thing. And then it will work. So the other thing that was critical for us is in between those phases and at the end of our exercises, we would obtain feedback. So we would ask them, okay, tell us how that went. Give us some feedback. And actually, they had some really, really good ideas of how we could do some things differently to make it better for them. And so we were able to change some of our ideas in some ways pretty significantly and come up with a path that was more effective for them. So getting feedback while you're going through this process is really critical. And like I said, I think it's a big investment of time. I believe we will get an ROI out of this. I think it's going to take another several years to do that. But just with the little bit I've seen already, particularly how well we're doing in the collaboration piece on the design build projects that are currently running through the shop, I'm now more than confident than ever that, yeah, this is going to be worth it. This is going to be an investment that's going to be worth it. And this will be probably one of the bigger investments we're ever going to make at the company. And we buy a lot of big equipment, a lot of expensive machines. This one will probably top those, without a doubt. So, okay. Well, I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time. You've been very patient with me, and I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has. Hey, John.
Nice job, Mark.
Thanks, John.
We should have you come and present to our tech group.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
We're going to hire a lead to help us out. So,
He's a good cash extractor. Yeah. Yes.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Go ahead. Oh, you had a real question.
Yeah, of course. Of course. How long ago would you say that you started the process, the culture definition?
Yeah. So we probably started at the end of 2014. Is when we first got serious about this. So we're probably in about our third year now of doing this. And again,
Time to change culture.
oh my goodness. And we, yeah, it takes a lot. I'm not very patient. I'm not a very patient man. At least that's what my wife says. And this taught me a lot of patience going forward because I would get very frustrated with our lack of progress. But yeah, I'm thinking it's going to take 7 years to get where we want to go.
Did you have any stop starts in the?
Oh, tons of them.
We've done the culture definition and
Yeah.
things, but then things happened and we pull away from it.
That was the one thing, John, we said we weren't going to do was pull away, even when it wasn't going well, and at times it was not. Our job then was to regroup, figure out what we were going to do differently, and that's when we started getting the feedback. Okay, why didn't this work? What's not working for you guys? And I think that helped us then keep this consistent but moving forward. If you let this thing die, it'll die. If you stop for any lengthy period of time, it's going to die, and it's going to be real hard to recover.
Did you get Lee involved right at the beginning, or did you start out with Phil and then switch over?
I started out with Phil on the Simon Sinek Ask Why. And then once we came to that point was, in order to be successful in the design build, we've got to have a different culture. We've got to have more leadership. Then I went to Lee because I knew that's what his, and Lee was in my tech group as well, so that was a really easy switch. Yeah.
Was it a challenge to get your leadership team to buy into this? And how many people were on that leadership team?
Sure. So it's the three of us. That's Joe Brittnacher is our Vice President of Customer Services, and Ernie Remendini right there is our VP of Manufacturing. It was the three of us, and we did have one other one, and that was a problem. The three of us were very aligned on this, and one of us wasn't, and so we had to deal with that. And so that ended up having to make a change out. And that was hard, because that was somebody who had been there for a number of years, and it was very difficult. But he just had a real difficulty because this is a little soft, and it's a little squishy, and he just wasn't a very soft and squishy guy. Yeah. Or he wasn't willing to be one anyway, too. So, good. Yes? Yep.
What kind of employee engagement did you have in collecting that feedback?
It was me sitting down with them in small groups and saying, guys, this is really important. Here's why, and walk them through why we're asking for these measurements. And then and encouraging them to participate, because we did not want to make it mandatory, but we wanted to strongly encourage them to do it. And then what I told them was, if you're willing to participate, then we'll share this data with you, and we'll do this once or twice a year, and we'll give you the data so that you know what you rated us before. And then each time you're going to tell us if we've made progress or if we've gone backward. And I think once they understood how important this was to us, to the organization, we don't get everybody participating, but we get quite a few. I mean, a majority, for sure.
Mark, can you talk a little bit about how adopting this cultural strategy, it has changed how you recruit and hire people? What are the kinds of things you're looking for and not looking for?
Yeah. First of all, it's made it much more difficult, because now not only are you trying to find people that have machining and welding and engineering experience, which is hard because we're already at a great loss in the marketplace for that, but now you're trying to also pick the people that fit the culture, because this isn't for everybody. It really isn't. And so it has made our talent attraction job much harder for us, because the pool is smaller. It has to be. And secondly, but what I've also seen is, as we learned how to interview for culture, which we did not do very well, and we still struggle with that area a little bit, because we tend to still want to hire the guy who's got the 15 years of engineering experience or machining experience, and he's smart. And so we made a couple misfires in that area where the group would tend to still want to hire the guy that maybe wasn't the best cultural fit. And what happens is you bring them in, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And so that experiment ends badly. And so now I think everybody's at a pretty good spot where first and foremost is we're going to hire for culture. And then we'll teach, because it's a lot easier for us to teach the technical skills than it is the cultural fit. I mean, you do both, you got to teach both, but way easier teaching somebody how to machine a part than it is to try to have a crucial conversation, for sure. Hey, Dan. Yep.
Mark, one of your slides on your rating of your pillars,
Yep.
one line that was red was trust.
Yeah.
What did you do I'm assuming that was a while back and they...
Oh, no. I wish. So trust is always the one that gets the lowest rating, and it's always, the lowest rating is always between the shop and the office, because that's where that barrier is, where the guys on the shop floor think the office guys are trying to take advantage of them and making them work weekends and all that, and the guys in the office think that the shop floor guys don't care. And so you have a lack of trust. That was why we picked the way we rolled this out to the shop floor was we had the office group basically teach it to the shop floor, because that's where the biggest lack of trust was, and that's where you have to work the hardest to build trust. If we can build that trust at that level, we're going to break through walls. I mean, we'll do great things. And so now they're having these regular meetings where they're talking about these concepts, they're teaching it, and now they're interacting at a much different level than they ever did before. Now they're talking about culture. And so we've seen that trust level go up a little, not as much as I think it needs to go up. We got a long way to go. But at least it's starting to trend in the right direction. And you're starting to see that, particularly with our execution on the design build project. You're starting to see this happen. In fact, we were just commenting yesterday when we just finished, we had a technical problem. It was great to see the assemblers who would normally wash their hands of this and throw this on the engineers. Hey, you designed a bad machine, so fix it. Now we see our assemblers going to the engineer, the design guy, and saying, hey, this isn't working, but I think if we did this, we can get it to go. And that's a huge, huge trust. Once we cross that line, that means the trust is improving, and also our speed to solving the problem is way better, and we're gonna do better.
One more, Mark?
One more. Yep.
Mark, thanks for sharing your story with us. Can you tell us about how you've measured retention and how you're focused on culture?
Yeah.
Because I suspect that that's going to be the best return on investment.
Yeah. So we do a couple things there. We do measure retention on an annual basis, and that's something as senior leaders that we look at that data annually. But we also do exit interviews and try to determine if somebody's leaving, why. And quite frankly, generally what has happened since we've started this, the people that we've lost, for the most part, it's been because it's a cultural issue. They don't want to do this. They don't want to have these kind of conversations. In fact, they've even told me, I don't think I should have to do this at work. Okay, maybe this isn't the best place. I get it. I mean, you don't have to do this, but this is what we're going to do, and maybe it's just not the right fit. So it has had an effect on our retention, no doubt about it, but I think in the long run, it'll be good. I do. Okay. Thank you very much.
That was super. Mark, thanks for a terrific presentation. What a leap of faith. And what a wonderful articulation of a difficult process. So thank you for that, and good luck as you push forward. I think everything you said resonated with all of us, no matter what our own business environments. If you want a presentation, or you want a copy of Mark's presentation, we will make a DVD available of that. So Amy, where are you? Amy's over here, Amy Sorensen from my office. So get in touch with her and she will get that to you. I'm sure Mark will also be willing to hang back and if any of you have questions that we didn't have a chance to get to. So Mark, thank you again. Also, a short advertisement. Want to make sure that you know about a special event that's happening on campus here, this room, next week, February 16th. Not next week, I guess that's the following, but February 16th at 8 a.m. Is the State of the Economy event. This is going to be presented by the College's Center for Business and Economic Analysis, which is part of our Schneider School of Business and Economics. Mark Schaefer, Assistant Professor of Economics, will be joined by some of our best and brightest students to present an in-depth look at the factors impacting our economy. They will discuss the current behavior of gross domestic product, unemployment, and inflation, as well as key economic changes that may impact the economy in the short term. This event will provide a solid basis for area professionals looking for economic data ahead of executing their business planning, and just folks who are generally interested in the state of our economy, local and national. It's going to be 8 a.m. February 16th, right here in the Fort Howard Theater. Sorry, this building, but in the Fort Howard Theater, which is just downstairs. 8 a.m. It's a 45-minute presentation followed by a Q&A. And Amy, do you know, can they just show up?
You know, I'm going to lob this to Amy.
Amy?
Yeah. There's a very, very, very simple registration where we'll send a follow-up email so you know where to park and where to go. But it is open to the public, and by all means, use it as a team-building experience within your organizations. Bring individuals from your organization. We invite the public. We would love for you to come.
Okay. Should they check a certain website or anything?
Yes. Yeah, you can see me. I'll hang around after. I will send you the information. Otherwise, you can feel free to show up that day as well, February 16th.
8 a.m. February 16th. So thank you. And also, want to make sure you know that our next CEO breakfast is going to be on February 23rd. Tim Bergstrom, President and COO of Bergstrom Automotive, will speak on engaging one's team through digital tools to execute a culture of guest service. I know a lot of you know Tim, but if you haven't heard him speak, a really, really interesting, again, kind of a cultural evolution within Bergstrom, very heavily involving social media, pretty interesting. So please join us for that. That is going to be down at Butamart Country Club. That is on February 23rd. So thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. Mark, thank you again. How about a hand for Mark? Make it a great day. Thanks.